Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's time. SK versus ExceL, our first game. Okay. There's League of Legends happening, but I was getting really excited about those fan cheers. There's a lot going on there. ExceL Esports, follow, la, la, la. Digging it. Might need a little work, but I like where you started. SK might be in a bit of trouble here. Sacre going to take a lot of damage. Can't imagine they'll force the flash. No hard CC here, but a good bit of damage down onto him early. Conqueror proc.
They're trying to force that flash. I got it.
I really thought there was going to be a Fallout flash there, but that's huge. Taking the Vladimir's flash away early is going to make an already difficult lane even more difficult, and that's more pressure now on Selfmade to try to counteract some of that lane weakness.
And because ExceL got information that Braum Dreams is on the bottom side of the map, they know that they have full access to walk into this jungle, place down wards, and it looks like actually even start on that side of the jungle. So not only did they burn the flash, they're also possibly creating vertical pathing depending on if Mickey can get priority over this mid lane, and just completely isolate the top side of the map for Expect versus Sacre.
Ooh, and I mean, a solid setup. I think Expect, remember when we look back to last season when it was the Yorick, he was kind of the guy, him and Caedral, who would get the ball rolling. Bot lane was not usually where we looked. Now, after yesterday, I think we've gained a bit of faith in Jeskla and Mystiques, or if you're looking just at level 1/2, maybe you've lost a little bit of faith, but top side of the map, I think an easy early focus. Selfmade, however, will be spotted out. Pirean as well, so both sides have opted into the vertical jungling and will continue through.
So here was the trick. If Mickey was able to get the push, normally it is Azir that gets it into this matchup for the early levels, then you'd actually see Caedral walk across mid lane and 3-buff Selfmade, but because Azir was able to push forward, it gave Selfmade the confidence that he could trade, and again, now we're to that vertical jungling where you've split the map in half. Selfmade and SK Gaming have complete control over the bottom side here because they have numbers advantage with their jungler, their strong side of the map, whereas ExceL and Caedral have complete control over the top side of the map, including that flashless Sacre as a possible target.
Well, and very important, I think we might have missed it on screen, but a flashless Mystiques as well. A lot of that early action, I was distracted by fan chance, apologies for that, but with Mystiques not having a flash, that can also be quite disastrous. The chain CC potential for a Braum as well as a Xin, if Selfmade can find a gank to this bottom side, could make it very difficult for ExceL.
It also changes the dynamic of how Jeskla and Mystiques would normally play out the early lane phase. Normally they could try to match Crownshot and Dreams here, whittle them away, use that Comet volley onto the Ashe and try to make some of that damage stick, but because they don't have flash on Mystiques, it just means that they have to completely sacrifice the first 4 levels of this lane phase, and they're at the mercy that Zhao could come flying out of that bush at any time.
And a little nerve-wracking. You can see Mystiques kind of constantly hovering back rather than stepping forward to back up Jeskla. He's ready, just a moment's notice with a Devour.
He's positioned really well, not only to get that ward onto the brush, but like you're saying, the moment's notice for the Devour, if Zhao came flying out, that he'd be able to gobble up Ashe and push her to safety.
Caedral, of course, clearing as well. So for now, I mean, relatively even game. Neither jungler has really gotten any greater advantage from this split jungling quite yet. Both going to retreat back. The Wolves, of course, are now up and respawning for Caedral. Selfmade moves back into his own safe territory. So calm, controlled, early game. Right now, at the moment, pressure on the bottom side, unsurprisingly, in favor of SK, as you'd expect in vertical jungling. And on the opposite side, pressure in favor of the Rumble. Both the matchup and the vertical jungler helping out there.
The nice thing that Sacre is on Vladimir, despite the fact that he doesn't have a flash, it's still very difficult to gank and make it stick for the Vladimir because he does have access to his pool now, as well as dive him. Yeah, you have Rumble and Jarvan, so you can mix your damage profiles and that you're bringing both AD and AP, so Sacre can go back by his magic resistance or his armor if he wants to, and he's still going to get hit very hard in this 2v2, but you don't normally want to dive Vladimir because he does have pool, so in terms of kind of getting screwed over at level 1, losing his flash, I think it's actually going to just stall out pretty even for him, and he's not going to feel it too much.
Yeah, he's sitting quite comfortably. Happy to let this lane slowly start to push out. Cannon creep there. Expect, looks like he wants to let this push into him, knowing full well that he doesn't have that dive threat, that he can't really step up and pressure into these tower plates in the early game, so you can get a larger advantage right now at this point. For now, clear speed in favor of Selfmade. Will be spotted out briefly. Is going to check? No. A bit unfortunate there. Good bit of vision being laid down by the side of ExceL.
There is now an opportunity about what Caedral does with this information. You can see that he's walking through a horde of vision on the bottom side there.
But despite the fact that the circle is small, you can't walk through Scuttle Crab. That's a hard lesson learned. There's plenty of junglers who think they're mission impossibling their way around that little circle, but no.
I mean, he's trying. He's looking for the gank on Braum here.
Braum is actually quite overextended. Dreams could be in trouble.
Oh, they're going to catch him warding, possibly?
Stepping down, Mystiques is going to be here soon. Oh, just kind of stepped out of the way of that one. All right, a little anticlimactic, but Dreams. Good heads-up play to just veer slightly to the right.
Oh, but that gives information for Selfmade, and now he is on the hunt.
Oh, and he's got Challenging Smite, too.
He also has his mid laner behind him. That's Mickey without teleport.
And the Demacian standard has been used, so the flag and drag escape option won't be there for a few more seconds. Doesn't look like he wants to commit, though. Oh, this is a weird moment of hesitation, I think, from Selfmade. Not a player who usually does that.
He was trying to catch Caedral pathing back towards his wolf camp, but because Pirean wanted to take the back, no, he won't do it, because Mickey's now back in lane. As soon as Pirean made the back, that was kind of like a conversation between your mid and jungle, where Selfmade's like, can we go for something here? And Pirean's like, no, 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 I'd rather take the back and get some items to match Corki, and you didn't want to cost your mid lane or something, because you wanted to get some chip damage on Jarvan. Speaking of chip damage,
yeah. little more than chip damage. Level 4 Xin just almost solo killed a Corki, so when we talk about this champion being pretty strong in the early game, there's a bit of evidence. Challenging Smite, of course, is doing a lot of work there as well, and Selfmade will get control of the second Scuttle Crab spawn.
And this could actually be the Dragon, possibly. It's going to force Jeskla and Mystiques to play much more aggressive on the bottom lane.
See if Selfmade wants to force for something here. Now, SK. Not going to see a whole lot. And of course, level 6s, I think, are the big point that we do have to keep our eyes on. Cataclysm for the Jarvan. Pirean, of course, now level 7. Can try to get something started. Looks quite confident stepping forward. Will not be the Luden's Echo Rush that we saw yesterday from Dazuke. Well, instead, it looks like be the Nashor's Tooth. And still, that ward. Fantastic investment. Is Selfmade going to walk into the brush at all? Is he?
Wait. Ah! He clipped it!
Yeah. The whoa from the audience is good there. And the thing is you never think, if you can like vaguely hear an audience going whoa and you're on stage with all that white noise being pumped in your head, that it's the ward you're walking past. You think someone's getting ganked, someone's trying to sneak an objective. You never think it's just a ward in a brush.
I mean, I guess the silver lining here is, what is that ward actually giving information for ExceL, and what are they doing with it? Because while it can be quite frustrating to see him just kind of high-five that ward every time he walks by it, they already knew he was passing the blue buff over to Pirean, so it hasn't given them quite the significant advantage that ExceL would have hoped for.
Definitely not, but it also looks cool, and that's important too. Caedral will look to hand over this blue buff. They're going to grab this one. And, you know, the Corki, of course, fades early. Will make the lane a little bit easier just to get in and out on that farm. Will not be able to come out on top without a Sheen in these trades up against Pirean. And Double Dorn, something we're seeing more and more from Azir, as we saw from Dazuke yesterday, and it feels like a little more commitment just to pressing an already advantaged early lane for the Azir.
Yeah, and like you're saying, it's about that priority there to make sure that you can match the Corki, trying to figure out the build path as well as the keystone that they're going to be taking, so that they can retain control over the mid lane, since it is going to be quite slow between Azir and Corki, and give them access to things like this Fountain Dragon.
Absolutely does. Using the pressure bot lane, using the even mid lane to move forward here. Mystiques will spot this one out, but can't do much here on the Tahm Kench.
You say that, but they do have Jeskla's arrow.
Arrow does connect. Braum is just going to body block. The rest of the team is here. Flag and drag forward. Selfmade tries to buy a little bit of space. Locked up. That's going to be first blood. Now they're being knocked back. Oh, man. ExceL getting 2 quick kills in exchange for the dragon. Tahm Kench coming in. Steve's going to try to walk it down. Crownshot should be safe under the tower, and well called, Frostgurn.
Yeah, the dragon came out, but the big tell was expect having access to the TP. As soon as you know that Rumble has TP and access to ultimate, 100% ExceL were going to try to take that team fight, as Mystiques is not done.
One man on a mission. You thought Rakan was the only playmaker. Oh my god,
Jarvan's
he's actually just going to walk him down. He doesn't need Jarvan. Here we go. Supportal combat. Get him. Where's Doa at? Bring him back. Mystiques is a generous Tahm Kench. You bring it back.
I mean, Mystiques is bringing it home right now.
Mystiques. Yeah, that is not a 1v1 I would ever want to experience. That was unfortunate for Crownshot, but now 2 quick plates, easy pickup. Dreams isn't even going to step forward to cancel that back. He's not interested. And this is a good start for ExceL.
Yeah, and again, it's the fact that, look at where Rumble is. Expect is like zipping down there. They know that the dragon was started, and unfortunately, he's just not there in time, but it was always going to be their intention that when SK went for the initial group up, that they were going to try to find their team fight, because they have big team fighting ultimates. The Ashe Arrow, the Jarvan Cataclysm, the Rumble ultimate. So yeah, they lost the objective. They only picked up a couple of kills. I think Mystique actually picked up one of them, so the goal didn't quite equate where you wanted to. But it's
That's what it sounds like.
It's about sending a message.
If you've muted the stream, you can't hear that either, so I'm not really helping, but that I felt that needed a moment.
Give me your best tongue smack.
That's the... That right there. That's my
best.
That's ooh, eyebrows. Tom Kench, balanced champion. Oh, all right. Of course, ExceL, guys, early game. Now, I'm going to be honest. We cherry-picked a little bit to find the best ExceL early game stats, but they're against two of the top teams in the league. But you can see ExceL have the potential to get rolling early. You saw it versus Fnatic, you saw it versus OG, and now you're actually seeing it here versus SK as well, and I think this is something we have to keep our eyes on.
It's about moving the goalposts when you have a team that's 0-7. You're like, okay, give me their stats on the second Tuesday of last month when they had a lead for 15 minutes.
Okay, we're not that bad. It's two specific top teams. And ExceL are looking great in the early game. You heard it from Caedral himself earlier in the day when I got a chance to talk to him. It's, you know, just the mid game that they need to clean up, and we're rapidly approaching that mid game as some of these first towers are getting threatened, as these tower plates are starting to fall, and Rift Herald looks like it will be taken down uncontested by the side of ExceL.
And one of the nice things about the champions that ExceL have put together with the likes of the Ashe and the Rumble is that, again, these big key team fighting ultimates that allow them to just kind of bypass any sort of macro strategy, because if someone's out of position, you just throw the arrow or throw the equalizer at them, you can turn a very small moment into a very big win for your team. So I feel like this type of composition really band-aids a lot of the macro issues that ExceL have had. It's a very ease of execution oriented comp.
Yeah, but expect now might be getting flashbacks to yesterday's. Once again, he's the center of attention here, tries to clear the way, tries to buy a bit of time, flashes away the equalizer. He's burning down slowly but surely. Hemoplex will not quite do it. He manages to live. I can't believe it. And now Mickey looking for the turn. The arrow's going through. So will not hit him. That wall, though, did not see it coming, most certainly, and SK will walk away there. DP may have been over-aggressive, but I cannot believe that Expect survived.
I mean, it was actually all about the ward. He wasn't even aiming for the wall. Just wanted that one control word.
Just hit it with the arrow. We've seen a lot of that. That's my favorite part about Ashe being back in meta, Frostgurn, is watching people whiff arrows.
I feel like we're really missing having just a counter on the top of the screen that just, like, ticks anytime someone...
I mean, our observers already follow every arrow, hit or miss, which I love because it's the biggest bait for casters and viewers alike. You're like, oh my god, there's no way he hits this really long range. We're following it. It must hit. And then, oh no, we're really just following this arrow to watch this guy miss in spectacular fashion.
That said, amid all the action, you can see that Caedral is glowing purple because they have access to the Rift Herald. Now the question is going to be, where do they use it to strike? As we've swapped around lane assignments, Mickey in the bot lane, Rumble now in the mid lane, and we've swapped Ashe and Kench up to top side.
And my concern here as we move a little bit later into the game is bot side for ExceL once again is doing quite well, but Expect this time, despite having, you know, a reasonably favorable early matchup, at least in terms of early lane pressure, is actually starting to fall behind in CS quite quickly.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter. It's always nice if you have the extra CS, but he's still doing a ton of damage with just the simple penetration and his ultimate. So I feel like it doesn't mean so much for this Rumble at this point.
Hasn't cost him too much. Would like to have a bit more gold and will now get a bit more gold as the Rift Herald will crash, but sadly, not quite the explosive use of the Herald that the team may have been looking for. Eyes on Selfmade, his flash is not up, but he has opted to take Hex Flash. So look out for creative pathing here. He can go over the wall.
So this is what they were playing for, not necessarily pushing down the mid lane tower, but trying to create space for this dragon. Expect, however, wants to take his back.
Hex Flash. Steal! That's style points right there for Selfmade. The fight is now going to break out. Selfmade may have given his life. The equalizer has now caught up Crownshot. Crownshot's starting to burn oh so quickly. Dream's next on the menu. Crownshot trying to fire over the wall. He will manage to take down Caedral. Sacre will grab the kill in the end. Where's the blood going to go? That's the Crimson Rush. Isn't going to be enough. Not going to happen. The Vladimir will get taken down. Mickey now on a killing spree. The Baron or the Dragon Steel is great, but the rest of the team fight just falls apart.
Yeah, that was the only fault. The fact that they didn't also pick up the Dragon. Otherwise, another great team fight from ExceL. We talked about ease of execution, but it's also item power spikes. You know, right now, SK Gaming are between items. They don't have the same type of combat power that ExceL's composition has. Never mind all of those team fighting ultimates. Do want to point out Sacre here. I feel like he did get a great flank, and that was kind of the high moment for SK Gaming into this team fight, but otherwise ExceL did a great job bundling together, making sure that they hit their key ultimates, repositioning, and cleaning out the rest of the fight.
And this is something that ExceL just continue to show us every time, is one or two of these mid-game team fights. Usually not on the Dragon, too. I feel like we've seen this in the OG game. I feel like we've seen it in the Fnatic game. Every time ExceL are finding leads, it's around these early Dragon fights and knowing those windows of opportunity where they can go in. And we're seeing a Rumble really be kind of that hugely impactful champion that it's always theory crafted to be, but we just haven't seen in a few weeks.
It's also kind of now about the next step for ExceL. It's a bit easier to play this point of League of Legends because a lot of the towers are still up and it's kind of paint by numbers. Like you can figure out where you're supposed to go. The dragon has spawned. Okay, we should obviously be playing around this objective. Where ExceL really tend to struggle is when the map is much more open, when there's no clear tower to go for, when it's more about setting up your vision, moving your vision line around. That's where they tend to stumble and not figure out exactly what the next best objective or next best play is.
See if that's something that can change. The Hex Flash will not be used over the wall. Crownshot set up to clear out the mid lane wave, and ExceL just spreading out across the lanes. Corki, of course, being 3-0-1 and having 1.5 items is going to make things a lot easier. The package has been used, though, and still have to be a bit careful here as Selfmade is a looming threat, but the later and later we get, the less and less that Xin will be a problem. And now a good bit of damage as ExceL siege the mid lane. Caedral waiting in the darkness there to dive in if SK overstep or overstay their welcome. Just barely able to clear that tower will now shift their attention to the bottom side. So we're still very much in the ExceL wheelhouse. Follow that arrow. Where's it going to go? Nowhere. Sacre will sidestep, but another tower will drop, and the advantage just continues to grow. Almost 3K in the favor of ExceL.
And just really good map play from ExceL. Pirean doesn't have access to his teleport. You can see that he's trying to trade a tower on the top side of the map, but good job from ExceL not only to move their vision line throughout this jungle and create a safety net to allow them to pressure simultaneously mid and bottom tower.
And overall, just, you know, confident control of the early game, even up against this SK lineup. It will be Luden Zeko first. Pirean, though, will stop off for the Stinger on the way for a bit more attack speed, and was able to trade that tower you're talking about on the top side, so that's at least something back. Only a 2K difference now, but really need to see a little bit more from SK, I think, in the minutes to come. Yes, you do always have Azir, Vladimir. We talk about late game, but as you mentioned earlier, more about 2 items, and, well, at this point, ExceL are much closer to those 2 items.
Yeah, which is what they're kind of banking a lot of their snowball on. It's the fact that they're ready right now to make plays, but we're quickly approaching that point in the game where ExceL need to find the right play each time, and it might look like this one.
Cataclysm and a quick disengage there from the ultimate. The Tahm Kench is now coming into the midst of the fight. Pirean is just going to walk away. Mystiques not with anyone in the belly. Only the Tahm Kench leaping forward.
But they should continue to commit towards this top side tower. It's the last standing outer, so the easiest objective to obtain.
Pirean, though, getting a lot more comfortable in some of these trades. The Equalizer, though, long range, looks like a great engage. Crownshot taking so much damage, he just keeps standing. Oh! Give him the tongue! Mystiques finds the kill.
The flash whip.
I like it. Expects, like, we'll pay you back. Caedral took that last one. This one's for you, Mystiques.
I just love how aggressive he plays the Tahm Kench. You know, Mystiques, when he came into the LEC, was our big Thresh player, and it was kind of considered maybe a one-trick on that champion, but time and time again, when you give him aggressive playmaking-oriented champions, he's able to show up, and you don't expect that on Tahm Kench.
I was going to say, I don't know when we started calling Tahm Kench an aggressive playmaking champion, but I'm down for that change. Meanwhile, though, Sacre does get something back, and still, Mickey will get a tower on the top side. So while the kill goes in favor of ExceL, towers are traded 1-for-1. And look at that fatty Tahm Kench damage. The bar looks small, but folks, that's more damage than the Varus has done to champions this game.
That's more damage than the Ashe did.
And that's the clout. Mystiques, he wants his respect. He's new on the Rift, but he's going to earn it the hard way. Getting in there, fighting at melee range.
I'm just really happy that ExceL are continuing to give Mystiques and Jeskla the spotlight. I love the fact that the LEC has such a deep pool of talent that they're investing into these younger, inexperienced players, giving them the time of day.
And I do... I mean, I can't fault Crownshot there. When you watch it the first time, it really looks like, why doesn't he get out of the Rumble All? But there's no right choice. He either walks into the Tahm Kench. Yeah, that would be my face too. Yeah, gotta respect it.
I just want that
the flash cube. Yeah.
And every time Tahm Kench just completely sucks all the fun out of a game, it's just you play that one.
But it's in a different way, and isn't that great? It used to be from eating people or eating allies, now it's from eating enemies. And ExceL will grab another dragon. SK were floating around, maybe looking for the contest here. Could try to turn and look for the fight. Only a level 10 Varus, however. Only 1 item, a little bit extra.
But this is the pressure point. We knew that ExceL could do this. Their early games have been pretty strong in the coming weeks. So they have the gold lead. They have all of the items that they need. 2 items completed on the Corki. He's going to be hitting like a truck. They have all of the big team fights to force objectives. Now they need to actively do it. Whereas SK Gaming want to slow this game down a little bit, get to that 2 to 3 item, particularly on the likes of the Varus, and just kind of wait for Vladimir to take over in these 5v5s.
Now to see where they look for the setup on the side of ExceL to try to keep this game rolling. As you already mentioned, Frostburn, mid-game is generally where this team falters with all 3 of the towers down now. We're officially into mid-game. Baron is now up and available. Will they go for that objective? Will they go for some of these tier 2s? It is really all eyes on ExceL at this stage of the game to try to solidify this lead, to try to extend this gold advantage.
The nice thing about ExceL's comp is, unlike some of the other LEC comps that we've been seeing, it's not just 5 damage threats. They do have a bit of actual tankiness between the Jarvan as well as the Tahm Kench potentially. So starting up an early Baron isn't as punishing because they do have someone that could theoretically tank it up.
And good damage sources as well. Corki, of course, shreds through. This Ashe build, not necessarily the highest immediate DPS as you might see on the Blade of the Rune King Runaan's build, but this is the Essence Reaver Trinity Force. If you're not familiar with it, lots of cooldown reduction, lots of poke.
And the big difference here is the fact that it's the previous Ashe build is more about a 3-item power spike, whereas this Ashe build is more about a 2-item power spike. And the game is really decided, a lot of the LEC teams believe, on 2 items. So this Ashe build is more about the poke damage, as well as kind of spiking and peaking exactly when you want to at very critical moments in the game.
And my favorite part about it is you get a lot of CDR, which means a lot more Ashe ults, which means in theory, if you're hitting them, a lot more quick picks for the team, which does make things easier if you're on the side of ExceL. Playing for picks, I think one of the simplest ways to find an advantage, but ExceL are just going to commit here. Vladimir is, of course, on the bottom side. TP is available. There's a death cap for Sacre, but no ultimate available. That's going to be huge. 4K, the arrow used to disengage. Can anyone get a pick? No, they've got the Baron. SK don't even know if they want this fight. Dreams is going in for the engage, but the Equalizer is there to split the team. Jeskla, untouched for now. Expect has already been taken down. The Corki firing, but Dreams is there to block the damage. Well-played fight by Dreams and SK, but the Baron still going in favor of ExceL.
That's an excellent call from ExceL. Again, they had the tankiness. They could turn for an early Baron. They did just that, but also the fact that they didn't want to overcommit to the fight. They said, we have the Baron. We got what we came for. Just sacrifice Expect. It wasn't the perfect fight, and they retained a lot of that Baron in their health.
And the confidence from ExceL to pull the trigger there and to force that Baron play. Strong showing so far from this team, and SK really need to figure out how to survive. We talked about, hey, they want a little more time to get to their 2 items. Well, they still want more time, but things are going to get a little bit harder now that a Baron buff is backing up 4 of the 5 ExceL members. Tier 2s, I think, pretty easy to take at this stage if ExceL want to force and group. It looks like they do in the mid lane.
And this is one of the powers of having an Ashe on your team, is that the threat of when you approach a tower, if her arrow is up, which you were just talking about how much CDR this build can have.
Yeah, the arrow's up, fun fact.
All the time. And it's absolutely terrifying.
Frustrating to deal with, most certainly. Now, a little bit of defensive vision in their own jungle, so they know what ExceL is up to, but it's going to get harder and harder as the wave pressure comes through. And once looking at mid-game, once again, eyes on ExceL to execute here, to push out across their waves, to set up good vision, and to make the most of this Baron. Plenty of teams have gotten Baron and done very little with it over the years. Hopefully ExceL has not added the books there in that category.
I mean, this is textbook perfect right now. The only thing that they have fumbled on is clearing out a lot of the vision that they are standing on, but you can see that that is the intention, as they're just grabbing waves, shoving it into tower, grouping up as 5, and threatening with that Ashe arrow. So if SK Gaming don't have the perfect defense, then they'll just pull the trigger on that and try to delete someone. Sacre trying to find a flank.
Arrow will connect. Expect holding for now, but Sacre onto the flank, trying to get in. Only going to hit 2 members, though, with the Hemo Plague. Will now turn his attention to Caedral. Of course, no cooldown reduction for him quite yet. Now the turn and burn. That's a huge equalizer, zoning the team off. Dreams finds the disengage, though. They're going to hold on for now. Caedral stepping forward. Has to be careful. Sacre 1v1, massive threat to him. He will manage to back off.
Still excellent patience from ExceL. They did the damage. They forced SK off. They traded all of the key ultimates, so there's just kind of nothing left in the tank for SK Gaming, and then they get the tower for their efforts.
And neither side really overstaying their welcome there. Not exactly the Vladimir ult that Sacre was looking for, but a decent start and continuing to threaten more and more as he scales up, working towards that second item. And I like his build in terms of the raw amount of AP, but only 10% CDR at this stage of the game is difficult for extended trades.
And this is the play pattern that you're going to see from SK Gaming every single time. They're always going to be looking for that flank for Vladimir. They need to get Sacre into the middle of the team. He's only going to continue to scale up to do more damage. And so it's really critical that as you watch ExceL, when they're setting up to siege these towers, that they continue to protect their flanks with vision.
For now, only vision really laid down on the bottom side of the map, so after this Mountain Drake, 28 seconds left. Maybe they continue to try to siege these tier 2s. It is a 4K gold lead. It is double Mountain Drake, so towers will fall quite easily before this team. However, as you mentioned, vision needs to be set up. Really only Mickey safe right now in terms of map vision. The rest of the team has to pay respect to the potential for a flank here. Selfmade still scary in terms of individual 1v1s. AD carries still have to respect that.
I really like the fact that Mickey, third item, went for the Hex Drinker here. So he's now just completed his second tier boots for the penetration, but he's doing so much damage on 2 items, and then now also having the MR to his name, since his potential matchups are both the Azir and the Vladimir, but more importantly, contesting Sacre. Now SK Gaming can no longer just leverage sending that Vladimir out into a side lane and just trying to create a very obnoxious pressure point, since I think Mickey can just beat him in an extended trade.
And honestly, I really just love seeing the IE second instead of the rapid fire cannon second. Rapid fire cannon, that single auto, always feels so good to poke before fights. But these fights aren't really about poking out. They're about doing as much damage as humanly possible in these scrappy duels. And I feel like IE is just always going to give you more bang for your buck if you're throwing out a lot of autos in those fights. But now the TPs are coming in, willing to commit this one. Only from the AD carry, though, from Jeskla. Now the siege is starting up. This is the vision you were talking about, Frostgren. So at least a decent amount of vision on the flanks. See if SK can find a path through and find a way into the back line in the fights to come.
This is every improvement that ExceL fans wanted to see from their team. Look at where their offensive vision is, the fact that they're placing multiple control wards, that they're clearing out all of SK Gaming's vision from the jungle that they're taking over. They're pressuring towers and lanes around their protective vision. It's just very textbook League of Legends.
Very clean. Of course, in the meantime, though, while they're making a play over here... Oh, man.
But who's going to TP to it, Pirean?
Wait. Is that the same blue buff ward that's been there the entire game? Wait, no. It's not there anymore. Is it there? It's still... Is that the...
It's not a control ward. It's a trinket.
No, there's a control ward right there.
Oh, I see.
And I'm wondering if it's the same exact control ward. And see, I should have been tracking this in the entire game, because stuff like that makes me happy.
If that blue buff and control ward is the same one, it has survived longer than majority of LEC players in most games.
Yeah, that's true. The Immortal Ward. I'm going to pretend it is, for argument's sake. Someone's going to call me out and ruin it, because they've got Pro View and they can see that it's not. But I'm going to say it is. Live on, little ward.
How long does it have to survive before we name it?
40. If we get a 30-minute game, 35-minute game, we can name it.
Okay, 4 minutes.
And we'll name the ward. Three minutes now. All right. But focusing up, SK once again, if you're wondering, hey, why aren't they making any crazy plays? They're chilling. They're waiting. They're not in a position where they really need to do much. Sacre is continuing to farm, and we've all played it against enough Vladimirs to know, a few more items under his belt, and they'll just start one-shotting the back line. But not there quite yet. Pirean taking a lot of resources, too. I like this. They know that Selfmade's going to fall off, so they stop giving him as much jungle, and they instead start pouring it into the Azir. 2 items now for Pirean.
Mickey scares me sometimes. You could just see him looking at opportunities. I'm like, it's not worth it, Mickey. You don't know where anyone else is.
But this is how you get on Reddit, is you go for the crazy plays.
Not right before Baron spawns.
Sadly, the Gatling gun proccing out there.
So they got Sacre's teleport, but I don't know if they know that they got Sacre's TP.
Oh, will not connect. I have confirmed, ladies and gentlemen, for those keeping track of the pink ward we were going to name. It is a new pink ward. It is not the same pink ward. I'm sorry. We will not name it.
We can still name it.
No, 30 minutes.
Okay.
Pink ward has to survive 30 minutes, then it gets a name. It'll be immortalized forever. We'll commission a Tahm to draw a picture of it. That will be the new status quo here at the LEC.
Shout out.
Shout out, of course. SK, though, posturing around this mid lane. All about mid-priority. Frosco, it is Baron setup time. Lay it out for me.
Well, before we do that, it's actually really dangerous for SK Gaming right now because, again, they lost Sacre's TP and they didn't get the engagement. So you see the desperation from SK Gaming right now. They want to force the fight, and they just expended 2 key ultimates there. The Varus ultimate as well as the Braum ultimate, because they lost so much map pressure because Sacre can no longer just piece out to a side lane. And Mickey's like, ha ha ha, I'm just going to go out here. So SK Gaming, they've run out of time. They have to do this.
Trying to buy a bit more time, throws it down, a lot of good damage going in, but Sacre just does not do enough. Jeskla is just going to go golden, buys a bit more, is going to walk away. Pirean can't get anything back. In the meantime, eyes on the bottom lane. All that matters is Mickey and that TP. If SK want to make this an even trade, they have to force Baron right now, or they are just going to lose everything for nothing.
This is disaster. SK Gaming backs against the wall, again, from desperation to desperation, like you're saying. They have to go for this, but this could lose them the game.
We are on the cusp of ExceL's first win in the summer split. Oh, that is a massive equalizer. It is going to deter the Baron. Can they burn it down? Is it going to be enough time? He will get it. SK and Selfmade will get the Baron, and can they walk out alive? We've got to go back. It's 80s flashback vision, folks. I'm not sure what's happening, but it doesn't matter because SK are making it away, and it is Mickey versus the world. Came on by time. The backs are canceled. 1 tower down. That's going to do it in heroic fashion. It is the Corki